Hey everyone, and thanks again for joining us today. So today we are looking at the life of David. I know that you guys are possibly sitting there at home saying, Rox, we know the story of David. But I believe that the Bible introduces us to David not only as a shepherd boy, but someone that God had a great purpose for. David, we read in the Bible that he is the son of Jesse. He was the youngest of 8 brothers. Can you imagine having so many siblings? At that time, David is mentioned. Saul, who was the king, and Samuel, great prophet of God, were on really bad terms. Samuel was instructed by God to anoint one of the sons of Jesse as the second king of Israel. This command made Samuel really scared because he wasn't too sure how Saul would take it. So what Samuel did is he obeyed God and he invited Jesse and the sons to a feast. The 7 sons were examined by Samuel, but neither one of them were confirmed to be the next king until David was called from the fields. The Lord speaks to Samuel and says, "Rise and anoint him. He is the one." Isn't it funny how unlikely the ways of God is? God overlooks the 7 strong-looking sons of Jesse, and he takes the smallest son, David, to be the king. God overlooks the 7 strong-looking sons of Jesse and looks at small David. We may see how people look on the outside, but it's only God who can tell really who people are truly from within. Keep this in mind the next time you are maybe puzzled about the way God works and his choices. That's where the story we know quite well comes into play. Is later on in Daniel's story, we hear that he becomes a soldier when the Philistines and the Israelites are facing one another in another round of a never-ending battle. The Philistines produce a 2-meter high warrior named Goliath. Now, I don't know if you guys understand how big that is. I don't know if you can see the bright orange thing on the wall. That's about 2 meters. That's how high he was. And look at me. I'm possibly the average height of what the Israelites were. And the Bible tells us that David was even smaller. Do you know what's even incredible? Is the Bible even tells us that the armor that Goliath wore was possibly the weight that I am. I'm not going to tell you my weight, but it tells you that the armor that Goliath wore was possibly the same weight that I am today. Goliath was a really strong guy. We know this so well. We know the story. And we know that David, with one single stone, he was able to defeat Goliath. And he even said to the king, "I will reject to wear an armor." He just came as who he was. And I always look at the story as an encouragement for each one of us to rise up in the name of the Lord and stand in our faith despite our problems. But there is a real reason why I've chosen to look at this story today. And it's in actual fact not because David is a hero. He is actually no superhero at all. We read that later on in his life, when David is king, he sends an army to fight. But he remains in the comfort of his palace. And at this time, while he's sitting on the flat roof of his home, he sees quite close to him a beautiful woman, Bathsheba. She is the wife of another soldier, Uriah. Overcome with sin, he sets up a horrible plan. And part of this plan was that he would send Uriah to go to the front lines of battle. And he actually gets Uriah killed. David then tries for some time to act as if he's done nothing wrong. But at last he realizes the size of his sin and he owns up to God. You see, this is why I would like to look at David today, is that he understands how bad he has been and he comes to a point of having to confess to God. And he does this through a beautiful way, and it's through writing songs. We are told that David added to the life of Israel not only being a king, but being a songwriter. The Psalms which David wrote, as well as others, make up the heart of our Bible. All human emotions are found in the Psalms. David's character has been one of excellence, but weakness, however, is undeniable. The Bible does not attempt to hide this. The great sins of his life, portrayed in deep detail, reminds us that even a man after God's heart is capable of the most disgusting sin. The main lesson I believe that we can take home today about David's life is that no one can walk through life in the way that God wants them to walk without being close and trusting in God. David, despite his many great qualities, was utterly weak without the help of God. So actually, we are in no way a superhero by ourselves. And we need to understand that it's only God living with us that we can do amazing things. And that is what we can hold on to this morning, is we know that God has great plans for us if we work alongside him. Thank you for joining us today, and God bless you.